What are the 9 current trends in health, wellness, and extending life? These are the 9 trends in year 2025 and year-to-date 2026, according to my search using AI. Don't worry if you are not familiar with them. Let's watch the short introduction video of each of them. The first 2 trends are longevity and health span. Let's see how they differ.
We all want more time, right? But what if we've been chasing the wrong thing all along? Today, we're going to explore a huge shift in thinking, a move away from just living longer to actually living better. This is a journey that takes us from an ancient dream all the way to some pretty wild cutting-edge science. And honestly, it might just change the way you think about your future.
So, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at that classic dream of longevity, the one that's fascinated people for centuries. Then, we're diving into the modern longevity boom. The tech, the trends, the biohackers, the whole shebang. After that, we'll pivot to what I think is the real game changer, this idea of Healthspan. And most importantly, we'll wrap up with a practical toolkit, stuff you can actually use to add more life to your years.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. The original goal, the one that's been with humanity for, forever, is longevity. From ancient philosophers just hoping for a good long life to today's scientists, the dream has always been pretty simple. Just add more years to our time on Earth.
At its absolute core, longevity is about one thing and one thing only: the quantity of time we have. It's like a scorecard. The age-old dream was just to get that final number, your age, as high as you possibly could.
And man, this slide shows just how successful we've been. Look at those numbers. Thanks to these huge leaps in public health in the 20th century, we're talking sanitation, antibiotics, vaccines, the average lifespan just skyrocketed. We got incredibly good at achieving that old dream. But here in the 21st century, that ancient dream has morphed. It's not just about public health anymore. Now it's a super modern, high-tech, and very, very personal industry.
And this shift has given us a totally new kind of person, the biohacker. These are folks who are actively experimenting on their own biology, using all sorts of data and tech to try and engineer their bodies to work better and, last longer.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the language. It completely reframes aging. Suddenly, it's not this inevitable process we all go through. Instead, it's a system, your body, that can be actively hacked and upgraded, kind of like you'd upgrade the software on your phone.
And of course, where there's a movement, there's a market. This isn't just some fringe hobby anymore. This whole pursuit of optimization has ballooned into a billion-dollar industry. We're talking about committed people spending hundreds of dollars every single month to get an edge.
And the toolkit for these biohackers is pretty diverse. It starts with stuff you might have heard of, right? Like intermittent fasting. But it ramps up really fast to some advanced, super tech-driven interventions, wearable trackers, specialized therapies, and even tests that claim to measure your biological age, not just the number of candles on your birthday cake.
Then you get to the absolute peak of this industry, where longevity basically becomes a luxury service. We're talking exclusive clinics charging tens of thousands of dollars for intensive programs, using hundreds of tests and a ton of cutting-edge treatments, all with that one single goal: engineering a longer life.
And all of this intense, expensive focus on just adding more years to the calendar, it forces us to stop and ask a really important question. What's the quality of that extra time we're fighting so hard for?
That exact question leads us right to the new goal, a much more powerful idea that's completely reframing the conversation about aging: health span.
Okay, so this is the crucial point. We've gotten amazing at keeping people alive, but we haven't been nearly as good at keeping them healthy during all those extra years. The quality of our health just hasn't kept up with the quantity of our years.
And that is health span. It's not about crossing a finish line at a certain age. It's about the part of your life you spend in good health. It's all about the quality of your years, not just the sheer number of them.
The difference is simple, but it's totally profound. Think about it. Are we just trying to make the road longer, or are we trying to make sure the car runs well for the entire trip? That's really the core difference between lifespan and health span.
And look, this isn't just some philosophical debate. The data shows a pretty stark reality. Here in the US, there's a huge gap between how long we live and how long we live well. On average, we're talking about a 14-year gap, a decade and a half.
That's time often spent in poor health, dealing with chronic illness or disability. That gap is what we need to figure out how to close.
So the billion-dollar question is, how do we actually do that? How do we close that gap and work on improving our own health span?
Well, here's the best news you're going to hear all day. This is largely in our control. We love to blame our genes for everything, but the research shows that the vast majority of our health outcomes aren't set in stone. They're actually shaped by our daily choices and our habits.
So here it is, the official Healthspan toolkit. And you'll probably notice it's not full of expensive gadgets or miracle supplements. Nope. Experts all point back to the same powerful, evidence-backed basics. What you eat, how you move, how you sleep, how you manage stress, and, this is a big one, how strong your social connections are. These are the absolute non-negotiables for a long and healthy life.
And on top of those daily habits, being proactive is, well, it's everything. That means working with a professional to know and manage these 4 critical numbers: your blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, and your body weight. Seriously, keeping these in a healthy range is one of the most powerful tools we have to prevent disease and extend our health span.
So ultimately, this whole conversation around aging is shifting away from a simple number, how old you are, to a much richer, much more meaningful idea.
I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The goal isn't just to rack up more years on the calendar. The goal is to maximize health span, to really enrich the time we have, so we can stay active and sharp and independent for as long as humanly possible.
So at the end of the day, the real question isn't just about the length of the journey. It's about the quality of the ride. And while that high-tech chase for more time is super fascinating to watch, the real power to live a healthier, more vital life probably isn't in some lab or exclusive clinic. It's in the small, consistent choices we all have the power to make, starting today. The only question left is, which future are you building for yourself? One habit at a time.
So, longevity and health span are outcomes, but once people prioritize health span, we start asking, what levers can I pull? This is where biohacking enters as a self-experiment approach, and biological age becomes a score to track whether those changes are helping.
You know that feeling, right? Some days you feel way younger, maybe even a little older than the number of candles on your birthday cake. It's this deep-seated human thing, wanting to feel our best, to perform better, to maybe even push back against the clock a little. Well, today, we're diving headfirst into a world built entirely on that idea.
So let's just ask it straight up. Is your birthday the whole story of your age? According to a massive and growing movement of scientists and everyday experimenters, the answer is a resounding no.
See, on one hand, you've got your chronological age. That's simple. It's just how many laps you've made around the sun. But on the other hand, there's something called biological age. Think of this more like the mileage on a car, but for your cells. It's a measure of accumulated wear and tear, and it suggests we might have a lot more control over how we age than we ever thought possible.
And this very desire for control has sparked a huge internet-driven trend. Let's get into it. Let's talk about biohacking, the modern quest to become the CEO of your own biology.
So what does that actually mean? Well, at its core, biohacking is basically do-it-yourself biology. It's all about people using science, technology, and a whole lot of self-experiments to try and improve their bodies and minds, often stepping outside of what you'd hear in a typical doctor's office.
And this isn't some fringe subculture hiding in a corner of the internet anymore. Not by a long shot. A recent survey found that a staggering 2/3 of Americans consider themselves biohackers in one way or another. Yeah, it has officially gone mainstream.
In the real world, biohacking covers a massive range of activities. You've got folks meticulously tracking their sleep and blood sugar with wearable tech. You've got the whole cold plunge and sauna craze. But it also includes things you've definitely heard of, like intermittent fasting, taking supplements or so-called smart drugs, and even using things like red light therapy. It's a really broad church.
But why are people diving in? Well, it's not just about trying to live forever. The number one motivation is actually to improve mental health and mood. That's followed pretty closely by weight loss and then, of course, longevity. People are looking for better focus, more clarity, and just a greater sense of well-being every single day.
This explosion didn't just happen overnight. The movement really got its start in these small tech and self-experimentation communities. But what really lit the fuse were podcasts and social media, which took these ideas and blasted them into the global conversation about wellness and living a long, healthy life.
Okay, but if you're going to hack your own body, you need some data, right? You need a way to track if all those cold plunges and supplements are actually doing anything. And that brings us to the scientific tool that's really at the heart of this whole movement: biological age.
So here's the crucial idea. Your biological age is an estimate of how your body is aging on the inside. Picture two people who are both 50 years old. One might have the cellular health of an average 40-year-old, while the other might be tracking closer to 60. This single number tries to capture that incredible difference, and it can predict health way better than a birth certificate ever could.
And while the concept isn't brand new, our ability to measure it has evolved like crazy. For a long time, scientists could only track basic markers of aging. But the real game changer came in 2013 when Dr. Steve Horvath developed the first epigenetic clock. That breakthrough opened the floodgates for even better tools, and eventually, the direct-to-consumer tests that made finding your true age a viral phenomenon.
So how do these tests actually work? Well, the most cutting-edge ones look at something called DNA methylation. Just imagine these tiny little chemical tags that act like on-off switches all over your DNA. As we get older, the patterns of these switches change in very predictable ways. That's the magic behind epigenetic clocks. Other methods are a bit simpler, combining data from standard blood tests or physical markers like lung function to create an overall score.
Okay, so we've got the trend, biohacking, and we've got the tool, these biological age tests. How do they actually work together? Well, it's all about creating a feedback loop that creates this really powerful, almost addictive cycle. Step 1, you measure your baseline biological age. You get your number. Step 2, you act. You change your diet. You start the new sleep routine. You do the work. And then, step 3, after a few months, you remeasure, hoping, praying to see that number go down. It basically turns your health into a game you can win.
And listen, it's a powerful motivator, for sure. Seeing a number change because of your efforts can feel amazing. But this leads us to the million-dollar question. How accurate and reliable is this whole system really?
When we really peel back the layers and separate the hype from reality, the picture gets a lot more complex. The claim that a test gives you your one true age? Well, the reality is it's an estimate, and different tests can actually give you different results from the exact same blood sample. The idea you can reverse aging with a few simple hacks? That's an oversimplification. A lot of biohacks are just good common sense wellness advice repackaged, while others are totally experimental. And most importantly, focusing too much on hacks can sometimes distract from proven essential medical care. Which brings us to this great quote from Dr. Melinda Ring. She says, "The best hack is listening to your body." And that's so true. All this data from trackers and tests can be a fantastic guide, but it should be a tool, not a tyrant. It never replaces your own intuition or, and this is key, the actual guidance of a healthcare professional.
So where does this all leave us? What's the bottom line? Well, biohacking is this fascinating, messy mix of genuinely helpful self-care, really promising new science, and let's be honest, some pretty risky and unproven ideas. Remember that biological age scores are useful estimates, but they are not crystal balls. For most of us, their biggest value might just be as a powerful motivator to live a healthier life. The golden rules are simple. Do your own research, rely on credible medical sources, and please, always talk to a doctor before you try anything too extreme.
Which brings us right back to you. If a simple test could give you a number, an estimate of your body's true inner age, what, if anything, would you do differently? It's a powerful thought, and one I'll leave you with.
The order so far is a sensible one. Longevity and health span, biohacking and biological age. Biohacking is one approach that some people experiment with to improve their health span. Biological age is a score. It is one of the ways to measure progress of our biohacking. The next video explains what is precision wellness or medicine as well as personalized longevity or nutrition plans.
You know, for the longest time, health advice has been pretty simple, right? Eat your veggies, get some exercise, see your doctor. It was this one-size-fits-all formula designed for the so-called average person. But that is all changing, and fast. We are right in the middle of this huge shift, a move towards a future where your health plan could be as unique as your own fingerprint. And it all boils down to this really simple but incredibly powerful question. Why are we all treated the same when we are all so obviously different? I mean, think about it. We have totally different genetics, we live different lives, we're surrounded by different environments. So why has so much of our healthcare and wellness been based on a model that basically treats us all like we're interchangeable? Well, That very question is what's sparking a revolution in health. So, on one side, you've got the old model. It's what some call the average patient approach, where treatments and advice are designed for these big, broad populations. But on the other side, that's where we're headed. A model that looks at you as a unique individual and uses your personal data to build a health strategy that's tailored specifically to your biology. Okay, let's really dive into the engine behind this whole thing. There are two names you're going to be hearing a lot more of: precision medicine and precision wellness. Now, they sound super similar and they are related, but they kind of operate in different worlds. Let's start with precision medicine. This is the clinical side of the coin, the stuff that happens in a doctor's office or hospital. The goal here is to use super specific information about you. We're talking your unique genetic code, your environment, your lifestyle, to prevent, diagnose, and treat diseases way more effectively than we ever could before. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the split here. Precision medicine is guided by doctors in a clinic, and it's focused on treating disease. But precision wellness? That takes all those same powerful ideas, using data to create a personal plan, but applies them outside the hospital. The focus isn't on being sick, it's on optimizing your health, your performance, and your longevity. And it's usually driven by you, the consumer. And to see just how game-changing precision medicine can be, look at this real-world example. There's a drug called osimertinib. Now, it was approved by the FDA, but not for all lung cancer patients. It's specifically for those who have a very particular mutation in a gene called EGFR. So instead of blasting everyone with the same harsh chemo, doctors can test for that one mutation and give this incredibly targeted, life-saving drug only to the people it will actually help. It's amazing. And this quote from the National Cancer Institute just nails the whole idea. It's really a two-part victory, isn't it? First, you get the treatment that has the highest chance of working for you. And second, you're spared the physical, emotional, and financial cost of going through treatments that were probably never going to work for you in the first place. That is huge. So how in the world did we get here? Well, this didn't happen overnight. It was really a perfect storm of technological breakthroughs. It all kicked off with huge advances in genomics. Then, that was supercharged by the rise of big data and insanely powerful computers. And then, the real game changer. In the 2010s, the cost of genetic testing absolutely plummeted, making it accessible to millions. And now, well, we're living in the wearable revolution, with a constant stream of our own health data sitting right on our wrists. All right, so let's bring this out of the clinic and into our actual everyday lives. Because with all this incredible data suddenly available, companies are taking the core principles of precision medicine and turning them into consumer products, like personalized longevity and nutrition plans. So what is personalized nutrition? Well, it's all about finally moving beyond those generic food pyramids we all grew up with. The idea is to create totally custom diet recommendations by analyzing everything about you, from your DNA and health history to, get this, the trillions of bacteria living in your gut. It's all about finding out exactly what, when, and how you specifically should eat to feel your best. And the sheer amount of data these companies are collecting is pretty staggering. We're not just talking a simple questionnaire. We're talking at-home genetic tests, detailed blood work looking at specific biomarkers, which are basically just measurable signs of what's happening in your body, plus gut health kits, and of course, that constant fire hose of data from our wearables. All of it gets fed into these complex algorithms to build your unique health profile. The actual process for you is usually pretty simple. You start by collecting all that data we just talked about through tests and surveys. Then, behind the scenes, powerful AI algorithms crunch all those numbers to create your personal biological snapshot. From there, you get a customized plan for what to eat, what supplements to take, even how to exercise. And then you track it all, usually through an app, and adapt as you go. And just how deep does this analysis go? Well, some of the most comprehensive, high-end longevity programs out there today are looking at over 200 different biomarkers. That's not a quick checkup. That is an incredibly detailed look under the hood of your own biology. But, and this is a big but, that level of detail comes with a pretty hefty price tag. A 4-day immersive longevity retreat that includes all this testing and one-on-one time with experts can run you upwards of $20,000. So for now, at least, this extreme level of personalization is often a luxury. Okay, so we've got the amazing tech, we've got the mind-boggling data, and we've got the eye-popping price tags. So what's the real story here? What's the bottom line? It's time to separate the groundbreaking science from some of the marketing hype. And this right here is probably the most crucial distinction to make. In a clinical setting, like cancer treatment, the benefits of a precision approach are proven. They are life-saving and they're guided by strong scientific evidence. But in the general wellness world, it's much more of an emerging field. It's a really promising tool for sure, but the level of hard scientific evidence can vary wildly from one company to the next. So, what are the big takeaways for you? First, just knowing a plan is made for you can be a massive motivator to stick with it. But second, and this is critical, it is not a magic pill. It doesn't replace the basics: eating well, moving your body, getting enough sleep. Third, you have to be a smart, critical consumer. Question the big, flashy promises, and if you can, work with a qualified professional to help you make sense of it all. And finally, just remember, this whole field is changing at lightning speed. So, if you remember one thing from all this, let it be this. It's best to think of these personalized plans not as a magic bullet that's going to solve everything, but as a really sophisticated tool. A tool that, if you use it wisely, can help you understand your own body better and enhance your journey to better health. It's more of a compass than a destination. And we'll end on this thought. Right now, we are generating more data about our own biology than any other generation in human history. And that data, that might just be the most powerful medicine of the 21st century. The only question is, are we ready to use it wisely?
Epigenetic age is a specific kind of biological age estimated from reading chemical tags on your DNA that change as you age. These chemical tags are added by our own cells automatically as part of normal gene regulation and cell maintenance. Metabolic health is a different thing. Metabolic health is how well your body handles energy and blood sugar.
All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something fascinating, the science of your true age. And no, I'm not talking about the number of candles on your birthday cake. We're going way deeper. We're talking about how old your body really is on the inside. And more importantly, what you can actually do about it. So let me ask you a question, and it's a big one in longevity science right now. When somebody asks how old you are, what do you say? You give them a number, right? The one on your driver's license. But what if I told you your body's internal clock might be ticking to a completely different beat? And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. See, on one side, you've got your chronological age. That's just the number of years you've been on the planet. It's simple. It's fixed. But then there's your biological age, and that's a whole different story. It's all about the health of your cells and tissues. You know, you could have two people who are both 40, but one might have the biology of a 30-year-old, while the other is, well, biologically, they're looking a lot closer to 50. So the big question is, how in the world do we measure something like that? Well, one of the most incredible, groundbreaking methods is by looking at what scientists call our epigenetic clock. Honestly, it's like we've gone from looking at a grainy black and white photo of aging to watching it in full-blown, high-definition video. Okay, epigenetics, it sounds complicated, but the concept is actually pretty cool. Think about it like this. Your DNA is the hardware in a computer, right? It's the physical machine. Well, epigenetics is the software. It's a layer of instructions, these tiny chemical marks that tells your genes what to do, when to turn on, and when to turn off. And this is where it gets really interesting. As we go through life, the pattern of these little chemical marks, there's a specific process called DNA methylation. It changes in a really predictable way. So scientists can actually read these patterns, kind of like reading a code, to estimate how old your cells are acting. And boom, that's your epigenetic age. I mean, this whole field just exploded. It really kicked off with some amazing research back in the early 2010s from a researcher named Steve Horvath. And the idea was just so powerful, it didn't stay in the lab for long. Pretty soon, it was all over the news, with companies popping up, all marketing this idea that you could actually discover and maybe even turn back your true age. So what are these clocks actually good for? Well, researchers have put them through their paces, and the results are kind of stunning. Study after study shows they can predict our risk for major diseases. We're talking heart disease, cancer, dementia, and even our overall risk of death, sometimes even better than our actual birth date tan. As a research tool, they're an absolute game changer. But here's the most revolutionary part of all. Your DNA, that's pretty much fixed. You get what you get. But your epigenome? It's not set in stone. It's modifiable. It can change based on your lifestyle, your diet, your environment. And that means, for the first time, really, we have some level of control over our own aging process. It's why there's so much research happening right now trying to figure out exactly how we can change these patterns for the better. Okay, but let's pump the brakes just a little bit. We need to be really clear here. While these clocks are fascinating and they're incredible tools for scientists, the science is still really, really young. This isn't a crystal ball. Getting a result from one of these tests, it's not a guarantee of what's going to happen to you. Think of it more like a snapshot in time. It shows you where you are right now. All right, so let's shift gears a bit. We've been talking about the microscopic software of your cells. Now let's zoom out and talk about the engine room of your body, your metabolic health. And this is something that's way more established and honestly a lot more practical for you to actually influence, like starting today. So metabolism, what is it really? Simply put, it's just how your body processes energy from the food and drink you consume. It's the whole system that takes that fuel and decides what to do with it. Should we burn this for energy right now, store it for later, or use it to repair things? That's your metabolism at work. And when we talk about metabolic health, we're just talking about how well that whole engine is running. We usually look at a few key things: your blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, and your body fat levels. When all those markers are in a good place, it's a pretty strong sign your body is handling energy really efficiently. So why is everyone talking about this now? Well, honestly, it's because, as a society, our collective metabolic health has taken a nosedive. With the rise of things like obesity, type 2 diabetes, and something called metabolic syndrome, public health experts and researchers have really started to focus on this as a core, foundational pillar for a long, healthy life. So what do we know works? Well, tons and tons of research has really boiled it down to 3 main pillars. And these aren't secrets, you've heard them before. It's all about balanced eating, getting regular physical activity, and making sure you get quality sleep. Each one plays a critical role. Food regulates your fuel, exercise helps you use it, and sleep lets you repair and reset. It's really that simple and that powerful. And of course, things are always evolving. It's not just about those basics anymore. We have incredible medical treatments for conditions like diabetes. And you've got the whole biohacking world, which is super focused on this stuff. People using things like continuous glucose monitors to get real-time data on exactly how their last meal is affecting their body. So the big takeaway here is really, really powerful. If you want to find one of the most solid, evidence-based things you can do to improve not just your lifespan, but your health span, that's the number of healthy years you have, then focusing on your metabolic health is it. Seriously, talking to your doctor about this stuff should be a huge priority. All right, so we've looked at these 2 massive ideas, right? On one hand, you have the super cutting-edge science of the epigenetic clock, and on the other, the practical, boots-on-the-ground reality of metabolic health. So let's bring them together and build your longevity toolkit. So how do these 2 things really work together? Well, here's a good way to think about it. Your epigenetic age, that's like getting a super sophisticated diagnostic report on your car. It tells you about the deep cellular wear and tear. But your metabolic health? That's the owner's manual. It tells you how to take care of the engine day in and day out. See? One of them gives you this incredible, detailed picture of where you might be headed. But the other one gives you the actual tools, the levers you can pull to change that direction. It perfectly connects the what's going on with the, okay, what do I do about it? And all of this really points to a huge shift in how we think about aging. It's just not about counting birthdays anymore. It's about understanding what's actually happening inside your own body, and then realizing you have the power to influence it. The science of aging is fast becoming the art of living well.
Circadian health means how well your body's 24-hour internal clock is aligned. Sleep is only about hours slept, but we also need to look at when you get light, eat, move, and wind down. It is about timing and consistency.
For the longest time, we've treated sleep as just downtime, right? A passive rest period at the end of a busy day. But that whole view is changing, and it's changing fast. Today, sleep is being completely reframed as a core pillar of our health and our longevity. It's not an afterthought anymore. It's an active, powerful tool for boosting performance, our brain power, and just our overall well-being. Okay, let's dive into this. So here's our roadmap. First, we're going to unpack the science behind your body's internal clock. Then, we'll get super practical and look at how you can sync your daily life with that natural rhythm. After that, we'll talk about the incredible long-term benefits of getting this right. And finally, we'll see where circadian health fits into the bigger picture of your personal longevity toolkit. All right, let's start with the absolute basics. Deep inside you, there's this master clock just ticking away, pretty much running the entire show without you even noticing. So what is it exactly, and how in the world does it work? I mean, really think about it for a second. What is it that tells you to feel sleepy at night and alert in the morning, even if you forget to set an alarm? Well, the answer lies in this brilliant piece of biological engineering we all have. It's called your circadian rhythm, and the word circadian literally means about a day. I love this analogy from the Cleveland Clinic. It's like having a tiny conductor inside you, orchestrating this massive 24-hour symphony. This internal master clock, which is located right in your brain, regulates the timing of, well, everything, from when you feel tired to when your digestive system is ready to go. And this is a perfect illustration of how that symphony plays out during the day. So in the morning, light hits your eyes and signals the clock to stop making melatonin, which makes you feel awake and alert. Then your energy and body temp rise, usually hitting a peak in the mid to late afternoon. As evening rolls in and the light starts to fade, your internal conductor signals for melatonin to be released, getting you ready for bed. And then at night, while you're fast asleep, your body goes into this crucial repair and restoration mode. It's an amazing system. Okay, so we've got this internal clock. The next logical question is, can we actually work with it? And the answer is a huge yes. So let's look at some really practical ways you can start syncing your rhythm. These are the fundamentals, the non-negotiables, backed by places like the Mayo Clinic. Consistency is honestly the most powerful signal you can send your body's clock. It just loves predictability. Morning sunlight is another huge one. It basically smacks the start button on your clock for the day. And then in the evening, you want to send the opposite signal that it's time to wind down. That means avoiding stimulants, and this is so important, the bright blue light from our screens, which basically tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime and holds back that natural sleep hormone, melatonin. Now this quote, this is where things get really interesting. It captures a major shift in mindset. For a lot of people, especially in the wellness and biohacking worlds, those foundational habits we just talked about, that's just the starting line. They see sleep not as passive rest, but as an active system that you can tweak and optimize for peak performance. And that mindset leads to more advanced techniques. You see people wearing those amber-tinted glasses at night to specifically block out that blue light. They'll meticulously engineer their bedroom with blackout curtains, maybe some white noise, and even temperature-controlled bedding. And they use advanced trackers to see exactly how much REM and deep sleep they're getting so they can test what's actually working for them. But here's the cool part. This level of self-experimentation isn't just for hardcore biohackers anymore. Wearable tech has brought this power to all of us. Devices like the Oura Ring or Whoop give you incredibly detailed sleep data and personalized coaching, making it easier than ever to understand and improve your own unique rhythm. So we know what the clock is, and we know how to sync with it. But what's the real payoff? Why should we care so much about all this? Well, this is where it gets incredibly important for our long-term health. I mean, just look at the contrast here. It is stark. A consistently messed up rhythm isn't just about feeling a little tired. When your internal clocks are all out of whack, it can mess with how your body processes sugar, leading to metabolic problems, it disrupts your hormones, it weakens your immune system, and over the long haul, this chronic misalignment is linked to a higher risk for really serious conditions, from cognitive decline to heart disease. It's a whole cascade of bad news. And this really brings us to the bottom line, the ultimate takeaway. Prioritizing your sleep and your circadian health isn't a luxury. It's a fundamental investment in your health span, the quality of your years, not just the quantity. Okay, so let's zoom out for a minute and put this really powerful concept into the broader context of modern wellness and this whole pursuit of a long, healthy life. As we've seen, sleep isn't some isolated strategy. It's one absolutely essential tool in a much larger toolkit that people are now using to take real control of their health journey. And it is so vital to remember this distinction. Longevity, that's just the number of years you're alive. Healthspan, which is the goal for so many of us, is about how many of those years are spent in good health, feeling active, vibrant, and free from disease. So all of these concepts you're probably hearing about, biohacking, tracking your biological or epigenetic age, precision wellness, personalized health plans, they are all different ways of getting at the same goal, improving both your longevity and your health span. And optimizing things like your metabolic health and, as we just explored, your circadian health, those are foundational pieces of the puzzle. They create the bedrock that everything else is built on. As you explore this fascinating world, the best advice I can give is to stay curious and be proactive. Ask a ton of questions, learn everything you can. But it is absolutely crucial to ground everything you do in trustworthy, evidence-based information and not get swept away by the latest trend or hype. And that brings us to our final and maybe the most important question of all. This journey is absolutely yours to take, but it's one that's always best taken with some expert guidance. So before making any significant changes to your lifestyle or habits, talking to a health professional is always the smartest first step. Thanks for joining us.
So now we both know a little more about the 9 trends year 2025-2026 in health, wellness, and extending life. Thank you for learning with me. Let's choose some topics to deep dive into.